to focus on the youth of the region in terms of taking the agenda forward. Let me, for the knowledge of everyone, let me just inform you that India has just taken up the presidency of the G20, and the very first meeting that we did, it was Prime Minister's guidance that we should connect with the youth, and India's presidency started on December 1st with a mega conclave on University Connect, connecting 75 universities across the country, and over the next few months, several G20 related events would take place across the country in the universities, and mainstreaming the role of the youth and students in the whole process. As many of you may be aware that India has proposed to place accelerating SDGs as a key priority area for the G20 next year. So, it is focusing on the large-scale transformations that have taken place, leveraging on those experiences, and the use of the last, also on women-led development and green transition. India has called for a strong focus on climate action and climate justice, which is also very much of regional concern in South Asia. India is taking the lead in setting the agenda on climate finance and climate adaptation beyond the normal narrative of mitigation. A major focus, as you know, as articulated by the Prime Minister, is on sustainable consumption through sustainable lifestyle. So what is being articulated as lifestyle for environment, which perhaps captures the SDG, the spirit of the transformation that is there in the SDGs, much beyond the SDG 12 per se. India has also put forward the priorities of the Global South as a key concern during its presidency. India's strong focus on SDGs as part of the G20 agenda is perhaps based on India's considerable leadership on these issues in recent years, with strong policy ecosystem, action through cooperation and cooperative federalism, localization efforts, and digital transformation leading to entrepreneurship development as a major policy thrust. As the lead speaker in the beginning said, that next year the UN is going to host the SDG summit, and it is around the same time when India would be through with the Leaders Summit of the G20. So no doubt what happens is part of the G20 in terms of the SDG agenda would also have strong bearing on the outcome of the SDG summit in 2023. Coming back to the VNR process, once again, the initial lead presentation was of much use for collective understanding for what countries have done so far in terms of their reporting at the UN and what they should be doing next. India presented its VNRs in 2017 and 2020. RIS, my organization, was pretty much involved in the first VNR process, which, as the speaker mentioned, as we see how VNRs evolved over time, the first VNR was mostly around reporting the status on the various indicators and what countries are doing in terms of their national initiatives. So India did that as well. But a key focus was also to bring in the subnational initiatives in the form of cooperative federalism. So Indian provinces, Indian states, as we say, also took the lead in terms of coming up with their own SDG vision documents. So those were kind of reported in the first VNR as to how states in India have been adopting, as well as what kind of mega flagship initiatives of the government of India are supporting the SDGs. As we have heard that SDGs, again, in India was never considered to be an alien agenda. It was part of the national development goals. And it was almost around the same time when there was a national kind of consciousness about the big push that several social sectors needed at that point. And the SDG agenda was a complementary effort to that in that direction. The SDG, the VNR 2020, of course, was a process of assessing what has happened in terms of the goals and the target and indicators, but a lot more focus was placed on what can be done in terms of localization. As many of you would appreciate, that India's huge developmental needs, despite India's huge developmental needs, both welfare programs in India and India's climate actions are primarily funded through domestic resource mobilization. So the template for localization of SDGs came out very strongly in the second VNR, where the neat policy ecosystem, the paradigm of transformation was placed, which included again the focus on cooperative federalism and competitive federalism, what kind of localized solutions are needed, and also the focus on improved state capacity. And all of it, as everyone appreciates, that VNR is a whole of government approach, whole of society approach. So a lot of discussion and participation of various stakeholders into the process took place. So I think, India, and the last point that I would like to make here is it's for India and for all countries. We have heard the merits of cooperation and partnership, both in the nature of South-South cooperation.